Our next presenter is Robert Eastwood. He's retired from Number 10 Architectural Group in 2016 after 35 years. He was a managing partner and was involved and led a number of major downtown Winnipeg projects, including the Provincial Law Courts building, the Bell MTS Centre, the Eaton's Powerhouse redevelopment, Portage Place walkway connections, and the downtown Winnipeg walkway system guidelines and expansion, and the Winnipeg Convention Center expansion. So a lot of breadth of experience, a lot of years and knowledge. So without further ado, we'll start the presentation with Robert Eastwood.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I apologize, the timing didn't allow me to put together a PowerPoint or visual, but perhaps at a later date forum, we can talk about physical ideas. The Bay is significant at many levels. As Mary Rowe mentioned, and it's interesting, I wrote at the top of my presentation, the importance of both the story of a building and the story of the Bay building, because it reestablishes and reinforces the concept of place. And place is a very important part of the story of Winnipeg and the Bay, and the Bay is central to that story within our city and the downtown. I will focus primarily on the architectural and urban aspects of the building, but there are many other levels at which the building is so important. I mean, obviously, as already noted, relative to the colonial history of Western Canada, as a part of the historic relationship between Indigenous peoples and both the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company, and as a part of the journey potentially to in reconciliation between all of the peoples of this province. The building has the potential of providing pathways that can be assist in adapting and reusing the building in a more inclusive way. Just very quickly, one of the notes I noticed are in a commentary on the history of the building, skipped over 1870 and the establishment of the building as a province and the important role of the Métis peoples in that, and Indigenous peoples in that discussion. And I would highly recommend reading Jean Thé's book, The Northwest is Our Mother, about that history, because it works into the history of the story of this building as well. As a building in downtown Winnipeg, it's an anchor to the downtown in many ways. At the Portage Memorial Boulevard, as mentioned, it's a gateway structure, not only because it's the gateway from the west, the south, and the east or the north to the downtown, but it's also its monumental size. It's the western anchor to the downtown walkway system, which has been an important connector from the Bay all the way to Portage and Main and to the Convention Center. And that walkway system is important and has been in the past an important part of new development investment in the downtown, has always wanted to connect to that system because of its interconnection to other buildings. So it's that in itself is one of the opportunities the building continues to present. The building is obviously symbolic of the geographic and commercial importance of Winnipeg and its historic history. And as an extension of that relationship, as pointed out in the first article, that history related to Upper and Lower Fort Garry, and the role it can play in telling the tourism and history story in Winnipeg within the building. The physical location of the building and its exposure is a significant advantage in reestablishing it as a major public attraction. Obviously, across from the art gallery, adjacent to the archives, and down the street from the legislature, it has just built into where it is tremendous capacity. The building as a structure and its adaptability are important to note as well. Not only is it a monumental size and architecture, but it's in very good condition. The stone cladding, the cut stone limestone cladding on the three public sides of the building are in very good condition. The Beaux-Arts style of the architecture of the building is very adaptable to a multitude of uses. The structure of the exterior is a non-bearing wall, so it in itself is also adaptable to being repaired or adjusted over time. The fenestration pattern of the exterior and the size of windows are significant. Again, related to the adaptability of the building, because there a wide range of uses can use the exterior access areas for daylight. Most importantly, the structure of the building is very robust. It was the largest reinforced concrete frame building in Canada at the time it was built, and I have read it was the largest in the British Empire outside of London at the time that it was built. And a significant part of that is the fact that it is fire-resistant structure, which is very important in any adaptive use, and its structural capacity provides for significant variations in its use of space. The structural grid in the building is large enough to be very adaptable to multiple uses because the spacing of the columns works for a wide variety of uses. The depth of the floor plate is a significant issue in any planning. It's over 200 feet deep, east to west, for plant uses other than large commercial. However, because the structure is robust and flexible, it allows for the potential adaptation in the middle of large atria spaces that can bring daylight into the center of the building for the potential space use of many other kinds of occupancies, such as office, educational, social gathering spaces, art spaces, even potentially apartments. One really has to understand the scale of the project to even approach it. The 6 floors above ground and 1 level below ground represent over 570,000 gross square feet of area. Each floor plate is 82,500 square feet. It would make it one of the biggest floor plates probably in Western Canada. To give a sense of scale, the total footprint of the entire 32-story Richardson building plus additional space fits within the bay. 1 floor plate is equal to 6 to 7 floors of a typical, the 10 to 12-story office buildings that were built in the 1980s along Graham and St. Mary Avenue. So there is a very significant scale to these floor plates. And while the structure is robust, the mechanical electrical systems of the building have to be completely replaced. However, the scale of the building is such that when one replaces these systems, there are opportunities for those systems to be replaced in an energy conserving manner, opportunities to optimize the design approaches with the new systems. And given the scale of the building and servicing it, it actually is best adaptable if each floor plate has its own actual mechanical, electrical distribution centers. And that approach really, again, provides greater flexibility in how those floors might be used and adapted. The existing, from a code point of view, the existing stairs and capacities of the building have to be redone to meet current codes. Over the past number of years, I've been involved with a number of studies related to the potential use of the building or its adaptation. And in those studies, one 13 years ago, the redevelopment of the base building, not including any of the tenant work, was over $100 million. And the tenant fit out of the entire building, again, depending on the final floor plate size or the type of occupancy, would be another $40 to $50 million. And those numbers have to be escalated for current costs. So in the context of the discussion about the Bay, the scale of it and the scale of what's involved in it has to be understood. And the players who are involved in this have to have either significant resources or access to significant resources and backing from many levels of government. In terms of those previous studies, given the robustness and the strength of the internal structure of the building, there has to be, in the dialogue about the reuse of the building, a lot of flexibility given to approaches on how it's used. In order to use those large floor plates or open them up, the structure allows for the insertion of very large atrium or atria in the building in order to allow daylight to flood into lower floors. The north-south orientation of the main building is ideal for creating an atrium space with a skylight to allow for a very deep light penetration within the building. And that allows for a wide variety of potential uses in doing that. In the past, there have been discussions of partnering with universities, Indigenous groups, cultural and arts groups, because there is the potential within that building for a wide variety of creative and exciting urban gathering places. The large structural bays also allow for its flexibility and use as office floor plates, seminar and presentation spaces, classrooms. There have been discussions in the past of the potential of the food store being brought back because of to support the growth of the downtown population, which has been a focus in the past and hopefully remains a focus in the civic this dialogue about the city. That downtown population is critical.
I think we have lost Bob. I'm not sure. Okay. I apologize for that. That's the technology part that we can't always control with our speakers. So we apologize for that. I did have some comments, and one of the questions, and I was going to pose it to Robert, but he's not on. Maybe Murray Peterson or someone from our panelists would like to address. One of the comments was, are there efforts and projects in other North American cities designed to use vacant buildings as warming shelters or for other interim uses?
Murray Peterson here. I'm not aware of any. I think that's obviously, given the last 2 weeks of minus a trillion degree weather in Winnipeg, I think it's something that we're going to have to look at. But I'm not aware of any in any other jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. It's I wanted to make a comment that the city does have a very good vacant buildings bylaw with inspections and oversight to make sure that these buildings are maintained while they are on the vacant list. So we work in tandem with the city, and I think the Bay, Hudson's Bay Company, have been very good owners and will assure that that building is taken care of while it is vacant and a decision is made. Okay, I think we're going to move on because we have contingencies that if these kind of technology problems happen, that we just move on to our next presenter. So again, I'd like to thank Robert for his wonderful presentation. Sorry it didn't finish. If he's able to come back, we'll bring him back on. So we'll move on to our next presenter.